Yo, this is Chaz Marinelli, and you're checking out the Three Count Podcast.
Welcome everyone to another great edition of the Three Count Podcast presents Now Entering, and I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And with this being season 6 and episode 400 and something, I would just help you say it with me. I am your Sherpa because, like your tribal chief, acknowledge me. But like every good Sherpa, you gotta have someone who's been there, done that, and can do it more efficiently than you can. That's why it's never about me. It's about who's entering the ring. So who's entering the ring? You can find this man at TCW, RICW, Tetsu Pro, Never Quit Wrestling. He is one bad hombre, the man that you don't want to meet, but also maybe sometimes just got a little bit of charisma in him. He is the anti-hero, Chaz Marinelli.
What's going on?
What's
Yeah,
up? What's up?
not much, not much. That's a hell of an introduction.
Oh man, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. No, man, because because we actually. So what's funny is I like actually put up a post on like Facebook, and I was like, hey, like, want to bring on some more people and see who's like around, who wants to be on the podcast, and then you got like nominated after nominated after nominated. So I was like, all right, well let's go bring this dude on. Let's go talk to him. Let's find out what's up. And then I love to talk to people who are like in a whole different aspect of like where I'm at, and I'm like trying to learn from everybody about like how like they go about the business and how they figure things out. So it's like, I don't know. And so I just kind of like I wanted to reach out and see like, where we're at with everything.
Oh man, I appreciate that.
Yo, so yeah, because like there's two sides of this coin, right? Because I know like you have you, right? We talk about the wrestling persona, but then also like you have the promoter side of it too. So I want to know like when you're getting hit up, right? And you're going out and looking out for these other companies, like is there like a partnership that you try to form where you're like, hey, I want to do some cross promotion? Like, how do things work out?
So when I approach it in a different aspect, so like I'll actually try and keep what I do as far as a promoter goes separate from other promotions. So like I look at other promotions as I'm the worker, you know what I mean? Rather than let me set up a cross promotion deal. Sometimes it works that way, but sometimes, I try to avoid that.
It's like,
I'm there.
go ahead, go ahead.
Oh, no, no. I'm there to serve the promotion more than anything, you know?
Yeah, because I saw. Okay, so I saw for like RICW, right? It's been around since like 2011, so it's been a long time, 13 years, like running in the game. And like, how is it that you're like continuing to keep the product fresh and keep the product rolling and keep it on top of the game? Like, what are the things that you're doing to continually help like drive this?
So, it's very different than when it was back in 2011. By a lot. 2011 was that was kind of a shotgun situation, where, you know, a bunch of like me, a bunch of my friends, we were in promotion where it wasn't the best place to be working, and we thought we could run things better than the promoter did, and we ended up just starting our own thing. And at the time, we were, we did better than the promotion that we came from, but it wasn't good. Old stuff is not good. But throughout the last decade and a half or whatever it's been, um, we've been able to keep things fresh and change up a lot of our lineup. So we bring in new guys here and there. Some names to really change or bring it to the next level. Um, and that's where we're at now. Is RSW has been gone for the last 5 years because of the pandemic. We weren't sure if we were going to bring it back, and then we decided, what the hell, let's do it. Let's pull the trigger, and um, now we got a new, fresh lineup. of veterans from RSW and guys from outside of RSW. So, uh, a lot of local talent and a lot of guys from outside the area. Because if you've been here in New England, you see that there's a lot of the same guys floating around.
Yeah, I have noticed. I have noticed. Not to be fair, those guys are very talented too though. Like I will be 100% fair and say what I say. But like yeah, it is very for a place that's like considered like a giant bubble of wrestling, like there's very there's you know, I will say a couple dozen talent that I notice everywhere. Not that I'm jealous of it, because I big props to all those guys too, and I look forward to watching those guys work whenever I get to see them. But and I know probably all of them, and so I just sit back and I'm astounded because I moved up here from Maryland, uh, probably about now 18 months ago. So yeah, I started to notice and started to see like I'm like okay, I see who's there, I see who's there. So then I go to like a couple of the promoters and I'll be like, well, have you talked to this person from like Pennsylvania or this person from like Maryland or how about this person from Delaware? Like bring up some talent from like the DMV. Like you can see how they work versus people who work, in the same 7 states. Like,
Right, no, exactly. And that's the thing, like we're reaching out to guys that are from the New York area, from the New Jersey area, from the Pennsylvania area. We're trying to bring in guys not just from there, but up north too. But um, we're trying to bring in a mix of different flavors, if you will. We don't want to have the same repetitive stuff going on that we normally do.
right.
So we want to change it up a little bit. We want to make things interesting.
Yeah, and it's funny too because like as I was looking through like the people that you may know list, like you and I have like a lot of common friends. So I'm very surprised that like we have not crossed paths like at all. And I was like, how is this possible? Like I understand like how big this region is, but also like I feel like everybody crosses paths with somebody at some point in time. And I'm like, this is very interesting. I was like, I'm definitely wanting to see what how at some point you and I can cross paths because like I saw recently you and Dante Dio, who has also been on the podcast. Uh I was like, oh, I know who that is. Oh, Madness of Trip? Know who that is. I was like, these are a couple of my friends. I was like, definitely gonna have to like come around and come check out and see like, you know, how different all the different flavors of ice cream you have at your shop.
Yeah, man. I mean, Madness, Dante, they're all good friends of mine, and um, we've had history. Let's say that. But it is crazy how our paths haven't crossed. But I usually stay in my bubble. You know what I mean? Like I stay in the Mass, Connecticut, Rhode Island area. Very very few times have I ventured out to Maine or gone to New York or something like that. So um, it makes sense. It makes sense. But like you said, it's a small world, so it is interesting that we didn't at least uh, align on the same show at one point or another. So
Yeah, I feel like at some point we're gonna run into each other and we'll be like, "What's up, man? Like, how are things?"
it'll
Yep.
happen.
I guess like from the worker aspect of it, right? Because I'm always kind of curious because I know Brian Bayside, like he's a run focused pro, but he's also a worker as well, goes to different places, and I see a lot of other different runners. JP Riley, especially from like Maine, I know he runs. I think it's MPW, MEW, and he travels as well. So as a promoter, when you go to other places, like do you get nervous reaching out to other promoters?
No, man. I mean, I like to think that as much as as much as promoters are different and have different views on things, and their product is ran the way that they want it to be ran. Um, I like to think that we're all in the same boat. That we've all had, you know, uh, that we've all, gone the same path at least, uh, and experienced quite a few of the same things. You know what I mean? Um, so when I reach out to a promoter, like my friend. a very good friend of mine, Xander Litt. He runs Texas. Um, it's just reach out to him. Hey man, if you need anything, let me know because I understand the stress of running a show and trying to find talent and guys that are going to be reliable and stuff like that. So I know what it is to run a show, so I can sympathize with guys like that in that aspect. Um, but yeah, man, I mean, it- some places are a little uh, hard to approach because of their reputations, but I mean, it's just you send a message, and if they want to talk to you and they want you, you know, if they
Yeah,
don't, then you'll know.
yeah, it's funny for me because like I'm like at this point in time in my life, right? Just period. You would think that I would be like comfortable about like reaching out to people and just having conversations, but I never do. So then what ends up happening is that I just bring them on like my podcast, and then we'll just talk there, and that'd be like how I first meet people. It's just like bringing people on a show and just try to network that way. But yeah, I've never gotten over that nervousness of just like, oh man, like I hope they don't think different of me. Like if I bring them on, if I reach out to them randomly and blah 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 blah. Like it always seems to be this way.
Nah, man, I mean, there ain't nothing wrong with that. Everybody's got their different approaches to things. I mean, it's been probably like, oh man, I don't even remember the last time I did a podcast, so it's been a long time. So,
um. So all right, let me ask this question though. Like, who is Chaz Marinelli?
so who is he now, or
Yes.
um,
Yeah.
I've gone through many evolutions, and I think a lot of people actually, I think it gets me heat because of how I act. Because I'm old school, man. I'm one of the last of the generation of those guys that taught the old school way. You know what I mean? So I'm a very firm believer in kayfabe, and I might overdo it at times.
Mm,
Um, but when back in the day, I started out as a anarchist, so anti-authority. Like uh, anything to upset the established order. Stealing belts or just messing things up, causing complete chaos. Um, but as you get older, and your character grows, um, you tend to change up a little bit. You know what I mean? I went from being an anarchist to being an anti-hero, which is why I have it on my tights, why, it's a moniker of mine. Because I'm doing all the right things or I'm doing all the wrong things. Depends on your perspective, for all the right reasons. Um, because I think there is an issue with professional wrestling, both on screen and off screen. Um, so I'm just trying to save it in a sense by any means necessary. So that's definitely mine.
I like that. I like that a lot, actually. Uh, what was the moment that got you into pro wrestling, though? Like, not the aspect of like, oh, have you always been a fan as a kid? Because like let's be real, like us getting into the business, like we have all been a fan of pro wrestling forever. But was there a moment or a match or something that made you go, you know what, now is the time?
To be honest with you, I was always a fan of professional wrestling. I never wanted to be a professional wrestler. Um, and it's funny because there's only a few people that know the story. Um, I only got into professional wrestling because I looked like Bam Margera, and me and my buddies were doing like our own jackass skit. And a buddy of mine turns around, he talks about uh, this backyard wrestling DVD that came with the backyard wrestling game, and he's like, "Dude, we got to have a backyard wrestling match as part of the skit." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he shows me these videos, and I'm like, these guys are nuts. Like light tubes, barbed wire, all that stuff. And I'm not ashamed to say it, but I started in the yard, and um, that's what led me to the yard. And after being in the yard, I realized maybe I want to do this. You know what I mean? Maybe I want to be a professional wrestler. Um, did I go about it the right way in the beginning? Hell no. But eventually I learned, and as I learned, I fell more and more in love with the business. And you know, I used it as like therapy. You know what I mean? Rather than going out and getting addicted to drugs and alcohol or whatever the case is, wrestling was my vice and still is.
It,
So
it,
yeah,
it's crazy because I feel like a lot of people like participated in the dark arts and we just never acknowledge it. Like we're just like, yeah, no, we found a school and then we got to train it. Like, no, 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 no. You definitely, you definitely yarded at least once, because
I
otherwise you wouldn't have ever looked for a school.
dude, and to be honest with you, I didn't know at that time that indie wrestling existed, which is crazy. But you gotta think back then we didn't have all the internet, capabilities that we do now. So we weren't able to go surfing on YouTube and be like, hey, here's Ring of Honor, here's Sakara. You know what I mean? Like back then, you were either a WWE fan or, for the very few, you were a TNA fan. Um, and but you know, I used to watch reruns of the RIWA shows with Wolverine and Danger Boy Alfredo on uh, one of those public access channels. I think it was like 13 or something like that for Rhode Island. And then I used to watch clips of HWA, which is how I learned of John Moxley and the Irish Airborne and all those guys. So that was the closest thing I got to indies at that time. Um, but yeah, man, I mean, there's a lot of people that started out in the yard, and I know it's taboo talking about that aspect of your life, but that for me was a learning experience of what not to do. You know, so
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Whereas an aspect of that's now I'm in the same boat. Like, I did. I jumped in for like 10 months, and then one of my friends came to me and was like, "Hey, if you want to make this a real thing, like this is who you're gonna go look for." And I was like, "All right, cool." And that's what I did. Like, I chased it down. And next thing you know, like one thing led to another, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm not looking back ever." I was like, "I'm just gonna keep running forward and just kind of figure it out from there." But, and even I had some people at the time too try to convince me too. They're like, "Yeah, no, you should." It was the weirdest thing, right? I think of it kind of like a crab mentality, because one of my friends was trying to convince me, like, "Dude, you should just yard for like a couple years and kind of like figure out who your character is, and then just then make the jump." And I was like, "Nah, bro, we go now. We just running in a direction and hoping that something lands." Because I was like, "Why the fuck am I gonna sit here and be like, yeah, let me keep wrestling with my friends in the backyard for a couple years that like they don't really know anything. Like they're just kind of figuring it out." And I was like, I can get trained and learn how to do it and not worry about it as much. So I was like, 10 months is fun, but I gotta go.
yeah, yeah, you get to that point where it's like, yeah, I love this, but I don't want to kill somebody. So
And it was cool. Like, and I said, like, yeah, I never really get to talk about it much, but it was cool for the time, like, that I was in. People were talking to me about it. I was still trying to figure out me and stuff like that. And then once I jumped and started training, like January of 2020, I was like, there was just no turning back. It was like, it's all go, no quit. I'm gonna figure this out. And then the pandemic happened, everything got shut down, then started back up, started running all over again and trying to take off and make this into something. And you know, I I don't know, it just going from like the Maryland region and into the New England region and just trying to figure things out and rebuilding back up. Like it's been crazy. It's been a hell of a ride. But it's one that I think I would encourage other wrestlers that if you think you're over in your region, I would encourage you to go find a new region to work in.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I agree.
Yeah, because then you could be over in two regions. Wow, and who
Yeah.
doesn't like that? You know?
The best of both worlds, or
Right.
three regions.
Yeah, like, yeah, it's cool for me to be able to drive down to Maryland and go wrestle with my friends and stuff like that, and get booed out of buildings because people wanna fight us because they don't like us, or then the next day drive to Pennsylvania and get cheered on because somebody there was like, "Yeah, that's my favorite wrestler." Then to come back into Massachusetts and wrestle again, and we were like, "How do we really take this guy? Do we think he's good? We'll cheer now." And then later, "We'll boo him in another region." I'm like, "This is so much fun. There's nothing better than this."
No, exactly, dude.
So you said, in the Connecticut, the Rhode Island, and the Massachusetts region, what's been one of your favorites? Wow, that is really weird that my whole camera went out. Uh, give me 1 second really quick.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Probably looked really weird with me being frozen.
Yeah, I'm picking up stuff.
What's that?
I said I'm picking up some stuff, like somebody else's stuff on my headphones. So
That's alright. Alright, cool. So what I'll do is, we'll start this back over, and then we'll just talk about, like, the region and just how you've been, like, hitting it, and then I have other questions that'd be fun for other things I love asking, so we'll get this started in back in 3, 2, 1. So you traveled around Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, kinda wrestle in different areas. I just need to know, this is one of my favorite questions to ask people, what's the worst bump you've taken?
uh, the worst bump I've taken, um, back in, oh man, I think it was 2010, might have been 2011, and I was working for New World Wrestling Extreme, and I was part of the Men of Business faction with Marcus Wright and DK Santos and a bunch of others. And Marcus Wright was challenging for the title, or he had already won the championship, and he was feuding with Giant Pharaoh. And Giant Pharaoh, for anybody that doesn't know who he is, he's 7 feet tall. He's a massive dude, like towering, and he's got long arms. And he came out, and I was the first one on his S list, and he ended up chokeslamming me from inside the ring, outside of the ring. And I fell forever, but it wasn't even falling that was the worst bump. It was landing on the concrete underneath
Mm,
because they had no pads. So I like slammed my knee into the concrete, and yeah, it sucked. It sucked for sure. So that was probably like the worst bump I've ever taken.
yeah, no, that sounds terrible.
Yeah.
That's crazy. No, I couldn't imagine getting choke slammed outside of the ring into
Yeah, it
concrete.
was it was listen, back then I was different. I was built different. I was all for doing crazy stuff, and the older you get, you start to sit there and be like, maybe not, maybe I shouldn't do that. So you learn.
Yeah, I'm in the same but I've done this show for, like, this is our 5th year into this show, and, like, hearing the stories of people talking about, like, gnarly ass bumps they've taken, and I'm like, "Yeah, not a thing I'm wanting to do." And I was like, so when I go to shows and people are like, "Yo, I wanna hit this crazy bump," I'm like, "No, I had someone talk about that on the podcast. We're not doing that, dude." It's just so bad. 'Cause, like, I've had, it's the first one I've heard where someone got choke slammed outside onto concrete, but I've had
Yeah, it
people talk
was.
about how they call the power bomb, like, they got power bombed on concrete, and I was like, Why are we doing anything with concrete?
Well, I mean, yeah, dude. I mean, you know, sometimes you're in the moment.
I feel you. All right. Well, then one of the other questions I want to ask too is like, what's one of the hardest lessons you've had to learn being in the business?
One of the hardest lessons I had to learn. Um, when when you leave this business, you only got a handful of friends.
Mm,
Um, that's that's dead honesty right there. You know what I mean? Like everybody pretends to be a friend at times, and you know this is on the shoot. Everybody pretends to be a friend at times. You know, like they got your back, but a lot of them, man, they're not afraid to throw you under the bus if an opportunity crosses their path.
yeah, I've heard that. That's why like I say it to a lot of people, man. Like I entered this business with the guys in my corner. And now there's been some other people that I've included into my corner, but for the most part, man, like I got some very good advice early on, which I've been very grateful and I've been kind of utilizing. Uh, but one of my mentors, O'Shea Edwards, told me that you have acquaintances, you have friends, you have people on your team, and you have people in your corner. Not everybody can fit in those categories. But the further you get along into this business, the more you start to see who's in your corner and who's really going to become an acquaintance. And I was like, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Because like, I was like, I see it all the time. It blows my mind. I'm like, dude, why is it so bad like that? And I reach out to I reach out to him all the time. And I'm just like, dang, I never would have seen this coming. And I think about it all the time. Like, yeah, it's crazy. The further you go along, people are just kind of like, man, what's up, man? Like, whatever.
Dude, it's true, man. It is true. It's very true.
Yeah, I've continued to just keep eyes on people, and I'm just like, all right, a lot of you guys who think that you guys were my friends, you're clearly just you, maybe not even acquaintances at this point in time. I'm just like, just someone I used to know. That's really all it is. Yeah, Patricia, like, what's his name? Gotti, is that right?
Yep.
Godier. That's what it was.
Godier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Godier. All right.
One of those names.
One of those things. All right, man. So listen, I'm gonna bring you on to my favorite part of the 3 Count Podcast, and it is the 3 Count Podcast 10 count questions. So, Mr. Marinelli, this is how it works. I'm gonna fire off 10 questions at you rapid fast, and whatever your answer is, that is your answer.
Work.
So, we're gonna put on the imaginary timer for added pressure. Bing. And in the words of my favorite commentator, Mike Goldberg, here we go. SmackDown or Raw?
Raw.
Favorite movie?
Fight Club.
That's a great choice. Apple or Android?
Android.
Favorite TV show?
Walking Dead.
That's a great one. Waffles or pancakes?
Waffles.
Favorite celebrity encounter?
Being Christian at Comic Con.
That's a good one. It's a great one. I was gonna ask this one original question, but I'm gonna change it up. CKY or Jackass?
CKY.
Yes, let's go, dude. The originals, man. Like that's what people don't understand is how great CKY was. Uh, favorite podcast? That's what I'm trying to tell people.
The
You
three
guys
count?
don't. Yeah, for people who didn't see, he's talking about us.
Yeah.
Nominate one person you want to see on this podcast.
I'm gonna go for my boy Jamie Tucker.
I like this. I like this too. Last but not least, my favorite question is everybody who comes on this podcast. Favorite curse word?
Do I say it?
Yes,
Oh, fuck.
absolutely. I don't care. We are never gonna get monetized by YouTube, and I don't give a shit. I don't care. I don't care at all. All right, man. Well, listen, like those are all my questions I do have for you. So the last thing I want you to do is to let our listeners and our viewers know where they can find you.
So, March 8th, I'm gonna be at Return to the Underground, RICW's big return after 5 years. That's in Woonsocket, Rhode Island. Tickets are on sale right now on Eventbrite. I will also be at Never Quit Wrestling, Destined for Greatness 3, March 22nd at the Fall River VFW in Fall River, Massachusetts. The next day, March 23rd, I'll be at TCW, Never Say Die, also in Fall River, Massachusetts at the Cultural Center.
Nice. All great. One of those places I'm gonna have to go check out, definitely for sure.
Definitely, man.
Definitely. Because I know I'm booked on the other 2 days, so I have to come check out the third one. We'll talk about it after the show. But with that being said, what's your handles? You got handles for social media, actually, real quick?
My handle, well, I mean, you can search for me in the search bar at Antihero Chaz Marinelli. I'm the only one with that name. Twitter, I don't really use anymore, or X. Kind of off that. Instagram, I'm ChazBTTF. And YouTube, you can find me on RSW. You can find me by typing my name in. And I also have a Pro Wrestling Tees account, Chaz Marinelli. Go check it out. Buy some merch. Be sweet.
There you go. So he told you where you could find him. He even gave you his handles and told you how to find him. You know, Google is your friend, guys. Google is your friend. You guys can just go Antihero Chaz Marinelli. You know, you type in those words and you can find him everywhere. And he told you where you can get his stuff on Pro Wrestling Tees. So what does that mean? Like every great part of a wrestling match, we got to take it home because this is the 3 Count Podcast presents Now Entering, and I am your host, Clifford Red Dog, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And like every good Sherpa, it's never about me, it's about who's entering. So who's entering? You see him right there, Chaz Marinelli, and you guys know what to do. Tune in to the next episode and be there, or you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, you're following us on Spotify, you're listening to us on Amazon Music, you're even checking us out on that dumb app with stupid jingle that goes iHeartRadio or whatever it is. You're even leaving us those 5-star frog splash reviews off of the Elimination Chamber because that just happened. You know, that was a thing. And then you're telling everybody how great we are. You're checking out our merch on foryourwear.com or even checking out us on prowrestlingtees.com. You're telling your mom about it, your dad about it, your aunties, your uncles, your brothers, your sisters, your best friends, your cousins, and your enemies because we love haters too. You're doing all that stuff, or really you're just kind of waiting for this episode to end. You're waiting for the outro, and then you're choosing another episode to listen to. Kawaii. What's up? It is your friendly neighborhood Red Dog, and thank you for checking out this episode of the 3 Count Podcast. Whether that was Chaz friends, Red Dog friends, Damien friends, the Films Lounge, Now Into the Ring, Now Entering 201, or Now Returning to the Ring, you know, all those good episodes. You should really be liking, commenting, and even sharing this with your friends, family, whoever it may be. But what you all should be doing is checking us out on all of our social media platforms at 3 Count Pod, whether that's on IG, Twitch, you know, you can check us out on Threads, whatever it may be. And if you go check us out on X, it is 3count_pod. Check us out on YouTube, as well as Facebook, on Rumble, on Apple Music, on Spotify, all those fun things. You know, tell your mom about us, your dad about us, your aunties, your uncles, your brothers, your sisters, your cousins, and your best friends and your enemies because we love haters too. Do all that stuff. And then, you know, last but not least, buy our merch on foryourwear.com or prowrestlingtees.com. Kawaii.